What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB Swing for the Fences show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, talking Thursday's 7-game MLB slate. We, of course, have the NBA Finals finally starting tonight after what seems like a month-long break. Mavericks and Celtics should be a good one there. Just finished watching Big T and JSU discuss that. Excited for, of course, the NBA Finals, but purpose of this show, as always, of course, is the baseball slate. 7 games. We did have a pretty, well, we played, potentially good early slate. I'm sweating on the bubble right now with Mr. JP Sears. See if he can get the job done. But, joined, not as always. Normally Mangone is on the show, but you and Mangone switch shows. We got Steve Boyden today on Thursday afternoon. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. Heading out of town this weekend, actually heading to Louisville for the UFC card. So that'll be fun.
Ooh.
So I had to swap shows with Mangone, who apparently isn't feeling well anyways. So it kind of worked out. We've got an interesting slate. We were talking a bit before we went live here. It's a smaller slate with good spots, but it's hard to fit the good spots together. So, we'll talk through that. The NBA Finals, I'm excited. I'm going out to watch the game tonight. Put in a couple series bets, basically all Boston leaning. They have like a series spread, so I took them -1.5, -2.5, and -3.5. We'll see how that works out.
I haven't actually made any finals bets after betting a bit of both my bankroll, winning and losing on the Wolves. I did turn out net positive on that, but not by all that much. I haven't made any bets. I do have I have 20 tickets to tonight's Millie Maker in DraftKings, so I'll be firing in some lineups. Obviously, getting some some good advice from JSU and Big T on that one, and we'll see. I think I'm going to watch this first game and kind of make a judgment from there in terms of what I want to bet going forward. Obviously, playing DFS there tonight. And then, UFC Louisville, actually one of my good friends, Dustin Jacoby's the co-main event on that card. That's my girlfriend's, her best friend's husband. We hang out with them quite a bit. He is the co-main event against Dominic Reyes. We were looking at going to that. We go to a lot of his fights, and we couldn't stomach the $700 flights to Louisville.
Even from Chicago, it was almost 500, and it's
it was crazy. Yeah, I guess nobody wants to fly there, and so I don't really get how airlines work, but it was just too much, right? We're not going to drop I don't know. It would have been $3,000 for a weekend in Louisville, which was just a little too much. So I'll be watching that one from home. They do have a UFC card coming to Denver here. We're going to that one already. Got our tickets, so should be a fun one though. Looks like a good card. I'll certainly be betting it, and of course. We've got the UFC product and everything else you need over at runpuresports.com. Promo code DC15, 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. Hit the like button. And with that, let's get into these games. We do have another slate. Seems like it's the third or fourth in this week that started early, which I hope is a trend. I think it's just because of the kind of smaller night slates, but in my opinion, Steve, they should just include these games, right? If you're playing MLB DFS, is the 25 minutes, between the normal kind of 7:05 standard lock time moving to 6:40, is that really making a difference? I mean, you're a guy who does have a somewhat normal job. Is that really discouraging people from playing that much? I mean, apparently not, because this MLB slate is totally sold out 2 hours prior to baseball starting today.
Yeah, I like having those games on. They're usually East Coast games, and it just happens that some teams, when they're at home, you just can't play their games, unless they're on a weekend. So teams like the Marlins, the Phillies, the Orioles play those 6:40 Eastern games.
The Reds are the number one, I think.
The Reds always do. So, we kind of luck out. We have a good weather game there. I'm all for including those games. I think they ultimately like want to split out and have two slates just to get more contests. But I think that they could. I mean, we could go on about how much
the thing is,
fuck
Steve,
up the contest
the
sizing
turbo
anyways.
contests, the turbo contests that they release,
Those are so small anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get this, that people love like the smaller slates. I'm all about the games. Like I'm sweating all the games anyways. So put them on the slate is my
You totally missed Binair's joke, by the way. It was a dick joke about dick sizes. So,
Oh. I closed it before I even read it. I just saw the 6 to 8 and assumed that he was talking about the slate size.
Sure.
Binair, always with the jokes in the chat.
Yeah. You got to assume he's not like posting some, earnest take on what the slate size should be. There's got to be something else behind it. So we appreciate you being here, Binair. We got, I know, a couple people sweating $121 entries that maybe normally wouldn't be playing for that much.
Yeah.
From the giveaways yesterday from the crew at RPS. Love the just the community support, the community in general over at Run Pure Sports. Awesome stuff. All right, let's get to this slate though, Steve. First game on the slate that we will talk about, and first game that starts, of course, the Dodgers and the Pittsburgh Pirates. One theme of this slate for me is that there's going to be some big bats that I absolutely love, that are expensive. I say big bats as an expensive bat. And then some pitchers who are expensive as well, who I think are in amazing spots. And you just can't play them. It's just not possible to get in, the big stacks like the Dodgers. Some of the pitchers that we'll talk about going forward, you just, of course, run into the salary cap constraint that we all got to deal with when we're making our lineups. So it's been kind of a give and take for me which side I want to lean toward. Do I want the pitchers who I feel super confident in, or do I want the stacks who I feel super confident in? I generally lean going to the hitters, partly because I think the field more leans to the pitcher side. I think people seem more willing to pay down at bats and up at pitching if both look desirable, which in my opinion they do tonight. But anyway, this Dodgers stack against Bailey Falter, who, in my opinion, has been one of the luckiest pitchers in baseball. I said the same thing, Steve, yesterday about James Paxton, and played a ton of Pittsburgh. Almost got to the top, didn't quite get there. Had a sweat for sure for takedowns in the big 250. And man, I feel the same way about Bailey Falter as I did about James Paxton, with the caveat that tonight's hitting weather is better in Pittsburgh than it was last night. And, of course, the bigger caveat, the Dodgers lineup is miles better than the Pittsburgh one. And so I do feel like Bailey Falter, not even feel. I know this guy is due for some serious regression as the season goes along. I think a really good chance it happens starting tonight. And I love this Dodgers stack. I cut it off kind of at Pages in the 5-hole. Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Teoscar, Pages, no Will Smith tonight. But man, those 5 look good to me against Bailey Falter. It's also a very, very worn out Pittsburgh bullpen. I believe they've used their best 3 relievers in each of the last 2 games. Wouldn't surprise me to see all 3 guys available. Dodgers on the road, you're going to get 9 innings. This stack looks very, very tasty to me. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we're 10 minutes into the slate, and if you don't have Dodgers, you're just kind of like, well, I hope I'm in cash. I could see it going that way. But these guys are expensive, Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Teoscar, average salary of right around $6K for the 4 of them. And the only way you can get those 4 guys is if, of course, you play some cheap pitchers. So, obviously, in on the Dodgers. Walker Buehler against the Pirates. Curious to hear your thoughts there. I really haven't played much, really any Walker Buehler since he's come back from injury. He's been, I don't know. Okay, I guess I would say in general, not playing him has been a pretty good decision. He did have one big game against Cincinnati, but I don't feel the need to play a Walker Buehler here at 8,700. There are pitchers I like better if I'm spending up a pitching. No interest in Falter, of course. And that's this kind of first game for me. But a big one, big decisions here to be made, I think, between the Dodgers and the Pirates. What do you got for us, Steve?
Yeah, the big thing I was going to bring up is the tired bullpen for Pittsburgh. They've got 3 good arms, and they're all probably unavailable. They called up a guy from AAA just to have a left-handed arm in the bullpen tonight. So that, to me, says that Chapman is just not available here. I mean, huge team total. For Pittsburgh, it's good hitting weather. We got the wind blowing out. Looks like low 70s to start the game. They've got Austin Barnes in the lineup. Is the only weak spot is you don't get Will Smith in there, but you also get a 2K catcher that might help. If you want to five-man them and pay up at least for one pitcher. When I was fooling around with Dodger stuff, DC, that's kind of what you needed to do if you wanted one of the top pitchers is to have Barnes in there.
Barnes, and then, I mean, Miguel Vargas in the 8-hole, I think is an okay play as well.
Yeah. Vargas at 3K, and he's got pop. I like him more than like a Kike Hernandez or a Rojas there. I think those are probably
they've had their chances this year, and they've just done nothing. It's not to say that they will for sure do nothing tonight, of course, but give me the shot on Miguel Vargas, who is still a top prospect. I know he's kind of flopped at the big league level so far, but one of the reasons he hasn't gotten more chances than he has is because he can't field like any position. Like, he's a legit good hitter. So Vargas and Barnes, if you're going to the Dodgers and you need some salary relief, those would be the 2 guys that I play. I also say the same thing about catcher that we often do. Will Smith might come in and pinch hit for Austin Barnes at some point, but one, it would only be Will Smith, I think, that would likely do it, unless you're, in the 9th inning or something like that. And 2, when teams give their catchers day off, they generally want to keep it a full day off. And so, yes, Barnes could be pinch hit for, but if the Dodgers win this game, by 2, 3, 4 runs, Barnes probably plays the whole game, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they're blowing him out, they'll just give Smith the whole. Yeah. If Smith is pinch hitting late, it's because this game is close, and that's not what you want when you're spending up for the Dodgers, anyways, right? So Dodgers, an obvious smash spot. I think the interesting discussion is on Walker Buehler. I have been maybe stubbornly using him before I should have. He just kind of looks like a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years.
He fell. Sorry to cut you off again, but he fell apart. And when we don't talk about this much anymore, but the sticky stuff enforcement sent him into a tailspin where his results got bad, and then he started getting injured. Which, I mean, again, I don't know this for sure, but I think that's all related with Walker Buehler. That's why one of the reasons I've been off him. I'm just not a huge believer in his right now.
Yeah. So his price is basically you're buying the old Walker Buehler here, and I'm just not sure that that's where he's at. I think he's going to be probably over-owned in this. Well, actually, no. I'm seeing low ownership here. Yeah, I think I'm just on like a wait and see with Buehler here. I'm playing 3 lineups tonight because I'll be out and about. I'm probably not going to have Buehler on any of them here. That at least one of my 3 is going to be a Dodgers 5-man. And then I think that they're also interesting, DC, if you don't want to 5-man them, like you choose a cheaper stack and your secondary is a couple of the top of the order Dodgers. You play 2 or 3 of those guys with a cheap, Cardinals stack, something like that. And I think that that's a good way to go as well.
Yeah, I still do like him tonight. Mookie Betts, though, has not really earned that $6,100 price tag for like a couple months now. Not that he's been terrible, but not that he's in like the Acuna range of being overpriced quite. But if you just go look at Mookie Betts since, I don't know, the end of April, been a little bit rough with him. So
he got off to that like torrid start and just kind of cooled off since then. Like the surface numbers overall look good, but he's hit like 1 home run in the last 2 weeks, something like that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So he would be actually the one I would maybe leave off if I'm trying to stack the heart of the Dodgers order. I certainly have more confidence in Ohtani specifically, but Freeman, Teoscar, and then Andy Paez, I do think is a really strong play in the 5 tonight. I'm sure he'll be a popular selection as well. I'm off of Walker Buehler there. I'm with you, Steve. I'm playing 3 lineups tonight. I guess because of the NBA Finals, they removed my favorite contest, the 4max $250 buy-in. So I did play 3 in the 5-5-5, which had flatter payouts tonight. So, reduced my number of lineups a little bit, played the higher buy-in, and that's how I'm rolling. But Walker Buehler is not going to make any of those 3 teams. A full-on Dodgers stack will for sure make at least one of them. Atlanta and the Washington Nationals up next. We have the lefty Mitchell Parker, rookie for the Nationals, up against the Braves, and he's pitched well this year. I've kind of waffled my opinion on him a couple times. I certainly have played Braves stacks against him. I think he just faced the Braves the one time. 2 starts ago. Pitched really well, though. 6 strikeouts, no walks, just 3 earned runs over 6 in the 3rd innings. I mean, he looks pretty good to me, Mitchell Parker does. I still have doubts if he can keep it up, but at this point, he kind of, at least in my eyes, has earned at least a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, especially against a Braves team that, I mean, it's hard not to have dwindling confidence in this team. I think you're with me. We've played them more than has been profitable, that's for sure. We've been stubborn. I mean, it's been a rough ride with the Braves. It's just the truth of the matter. I still don't love Mitchell Parker here, but I do think at this point you at least have to consider him. And then Ronaldo Lopez, another guy who, I haven't gotten the full benefit of his monster season to date. He is priced to the point now where he does kind of need to be a monster at 9,100 on DraftKings. Of course, a good matchup here against the Nationals. There are a couple pitchers we'll talk about coming up, though, that I do like quite a bit better than Lopez. So I think I'm off both of these guys, Mitchell Parker, Ronaldo Lopez, that is, tonight. I will say really, really good hitting weather in D.C. Hot, humid, winds blowing out. This park turns into a hitter's paradise when you get this kind of weather. So,
we're getting that time of year in D.C. where it's going to be humid most every
This will be every day.
That was going to be my first point here, which is why I'm off the pitchers. I think this is a spot where both pitchers pitch fine, but not good enough to pay off. But I also don't love the full stacks here either. Parker's been good. He wasn't one of the Nats' top prospects coming into the season, but he's held his own. I mean, he's 9 starts in with an ERA of 3.6. whip of 1.14. He hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in any start. And it's not like he's had the easiest schedule. Like, he's faced in his 9 starts, DC, the Dodgers, Houston, Texas, Baltimore, Twins, Atlanta, and Cleveland.
That's what I'm saying. It's getting kind of hard to doubt the guy at this point.
Yeah. I think that he's more in play at the price tag than Lopez is. We kind of want cheaper arms. I think if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I actually wouldn't mind taking the chance on Parker just because I feel like he can give you 15 here, even in the tough spot. I'm not playing either of them because I'm only playing 3, but if I was playing my normal 20 and you want the Dodger stacks, like say you want to stack the good Boston bats or you want to go back to the Yankees against a righty, I think Parker's a fine play here. On the bat side, I actually like the Nationals side a bit more here, DC. I've just been kind of playing Lane Thomas almost every slate. He's running like crazy ever since he came back. I think you said last week that like his stolen base rate per game is up there with Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
He missed the time due to the injury, but he's been really good since coming back. I usually bump Lane Thomas. I think he's an awesome one-off because he doesn't need guys around him to do anything for him to score well. So I think Lane Thomas is my favorite play in this whole game. Ruiz is still cheap at catcher. He's hitting 5th. And then I always keep Jacob Young in the pool. He's got some speed as well. So mostly one-offs here for bats. And then I think Parker is the better play at pitcher here.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to get there on my 3 lineups, but the Nationals top 5 does look a little bit interesting to me as a contrarian option against Ronaldo Lopez, who I still have trouble fully believing in. But yeah, that's Nationals and Braves. Let's get to the Minnesota Twins, New York Yankees. Potential weather issues in this game. I can look that up as you're talking, Steve. I do think it's going to play. And we do have 2 pretty good arms, at least in theory here, Pablo Lopez and Marcus Stroman. I would say 2 very different arms. Lopez has been extremely volatile this year, but we know the strikeout stuff, the ace stuff is at least in there somewhere. And then Marcus Stroman, who I would kind of say the opposite. I don't think he has anywhere close to ace-type potential, but he is very, very steady, almost never hurts you. Gets a matchup against the Twins, who have just continue to be owned by the Yankees just game after game after game.
It is crazy, isn't it? It doesn't matter when they play.
I'm 38 years old, about to turn 39, and I take it back to my high school days, getting owned by the Yankees, and it's never changed since then. If you can look up the records, it's just absolutely bizarre.
As an Orioles fan, I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Twins are much worse, even though they've been kind of better in general over that time period. But for this game, I can't play Lopez. I'm just not going to play. You might disagree with me somewhat. I know you're a Lopez believer. So am I. I'm not going to play him against the Yankees. Stroman, I think he's okay. I almost never play him. I think he'll get some ownership. There are pitchers I like better tonight. But talk to me, Steve. Yankees and Twins here.
I will say we talked about – I was on the Friday show, I think, when Lopez went up against Houston. He was super low owned, put up a good score there. This is basically the same matchup. He's a guy where if I were playing my normal 20 lineups, I would definitely have some Lopez exposure just because he does have that upside on a slate where we don't like a lot of the pitching options. Like I would rather play Pablo Lopez at 8,500 than Ronaldo Lopez at 9,100 just because he does have that upside to swing and miss. And his strikeout prop on this slate is the second highest. It's Sonny Gray and then Pablo Lopez and Tanner Houck. So, the strikeout upside is there despite it being a super tough matchup. I've stacked the Yankees probably more than anyone this season, especially against right-handed pitching. I had them last night on a 5-man. Wouldn't mind them here. I think you can play both sides of this. DC is kind of what I was saying. I think there's paths where Lopez gets blown up. We've seen that this season, but he is also good enough to pitch well against good lineups like he did last time through against Houston, which we talked about on the Friday show. So basically what I was saying is if I was playing my normal 20, I would have both Lopez and Yankees in my pool here. I'm not playing Stroman. I don't ever play Stroman, especially at this price point. Like if he gets into the 7Ks, I think you can play him just because he would just be like a safe option there. But yeah, for me, it's the Yankees and then some Pablo Lopez. If you're playing multiple lineups, I do prefer him over Ronaldo Lopez.
Yeah, if I got to choose between one Lopez, I would go Pablo over Ronaldo. I assume nobody's playing Pablo tonight. A little bit behind on the ownership stuff, but
So basically, what I was saying is he has the second highest strikeout prop on this slate, which is going to drive some ownership here. Like Sabres got him 20-ish%. I was expecting him to be lower than that until I saw the K prop. It's up at 6.5 here. And also it's a slate where there aren't that many options. Like Gray and Houck are clearly the 2 best. And then there just isn't much else. So I think it's kind of the product of the slate and the strikeout prop. It is a dangerous ass matchup that we've been on the show, twice a week saying that the Yankees have the best lineup in baseball right now against right-handed pitching. So scary matchup for him for sure.
Yeah. In my eyes, the clear best one-off for the Yankees is Juan Soto against Pablo Lopez. You get the platoon advantage. Pablo, not as good against lefties, and Soto. Yeah, I mean, I just don't worry that much about, the strikeout chances with a guy like Soto. And his home run chances against Pablo are, about as high. Go ahead.
Pull up Aaron Judge's box score on DK. Look at his last 6 games. 16, 32, 23, 22, 16, and 22.
I mean, I've been writing about that, talking about that for a while now, where he's just on a totally different level.
That is absurd. He's averaging over 20 DK in his last 6 games.
I've been arguing for this. Broccoli Taco brings it up. But just play the Soto Judge mini and then don't play any other Yankees, because most people that play those guys, like the rest of the Yankees aren't even that expensive. So people, of course, are going to go to the full 5-man if they're playing those two guys in general. But just cut it off. It's Soto.
We talked about it earlier with the Dodgers mini. I think this might even be it is a better 2-man than the Dodgers on most any slate. Pick a cheap 5-man in a good spot. Play Judge and Soto, love that.
And yeah, I mean, there's more than one way to get different, right? We typically think about it as playing, I don't know, a low-owned pitcher or a low-owned stack. But one way you can differentiate yourself is play a ton of a 2-man stack. Not very many people are playing 2-man mini stacks right now. Some people are playing 5-3. You'll see a lot of, some 5-2-1, 4-4 stacks on DraftKings, but not very many people, I don't think, are playing just the Judge Soto mini stack that Broccoli's brought up, that I've brought up over the last couple of weeks. Volpe has been good, but man, he is nowhere near the level of Soto and Judge, nor are any of these other Yankees bats. And
he's also not cheap anymore. He's $5K, just like Stanton is. Like, he's not a cheap.
And the production of Soto and Judge brings up the ownership of everyone in the lineup, because you look at how they've produced against righties. Yeah. And, if you just look at the Yankees, they look amazing. And listen, the rest of this lineup's no slouch, but it is massively brought up by the production that Soto and Judge are bringing to the table, which is the best production of any 2 hitters in all of baseball. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Ozuna thing with the Braves, where he's the only one hitting, and you look at the overall production, it doesn't look that bad. But that's because 60% of it comes from...
he has a 1,200 OPS in the split.
Yeah. So that the Yankees, I think, have a similar thing going on there. And I do think game theory-wise, you put all the puzzle pieces together, it makes sense to play a lot of Soto and Judge, and maybe go a different direction with the rest of your lineup. But yeah, that's Yankees and Minnesota Twins. Enough ranting from me on game theory there. Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds up next. Another extremely good hitting environment here. 80 degrees, moderate humidity, and winds blowing out in Cincinnati. I think arguably the best hitting weather that we've seen in Cincinnati so far. I play DFS MLB every single day and do these shows 6 days a week, and I can't remember a better hitting day than this one so far this season. So ball's going to be jumping in Cincinnati. It's always a good place to hit. Should be especially true tonight. But we do have 2 decent, at least, pitchers on the mound. Hunter Green, who is kind of a crazy arm DFS-wise. Tons of strikeouts, tons of swings and misses. He also can lose his command at times and walk guys. Also can give up home runs. Hasn't been a huge problem for him this year, actually. Only 5 home runs given up for Hunter Green in 12 starts. That number is going to go up. That ratio is going to go up as we get through this season. Starting tonight or not, we will see. I do think Hunter Green is interesting at 8,200. Don't love the matchup or park for him here, but, he's a beast and is capable of big outings every time out, kind of no matter what. And then Javier Assad, who I don't want to put him in the...
Screw this guy, man. I stack against him every time.
You go ahead. You take over. You take over, Boyden.
Yeah, Assad has just been so lucky this season. He
Yeah.
walks a ton of guys. He flirts around the zone. He's constantly in trouble. I'm just pulling up his advanced stuff now. Yeah, it's just I can't believe that he has a 2.27 ERA right now. This is just the perfect spot for him to get blown up. We usually talk about teams coming out of cores. I don't really buy into that as much, especially if they're going straight from cores to Great American, where it's almost it's in the mid 70s with winds blown out. Our friends at Ballpark Pal DC have this as a plus 56% home run chances tonight, which is
Let me cut me off real quick there, Steve. So you are like the number one drum beater for daytime A's.
Yeah.
But this narrative you're not buying into.
Which one? Oh, the coming out of cores thing?
Yeah.
I think part of it is that when you come out of cores, the guys are priced up, so that helps too. I just don't think that I'm not fading a team because they're coming out of cores usually.
I mean, I don't really believe in either. So
yeah, I mean they're coming out of cores into arguably just as good of a spot. I can't believe that this game total isn't higher. I bet the over. It's perfect. I think Green will be owned though here, just because the upside, this strikeout upside that he has. He just got pounded. So these pitchers faced off against each other on Saturday here at Wrigley. I was at that game. This is the one where they had the long delay during the UFC card, and no one really watched the game because there was like a 3-hour delay. And then the UFC was going on, but it was a super high scoring game.
Count me in among those people. I didn't watch that.
Yeah. Well, I was at the DK Sportsbook there, so they had the fights on and the game. Green was really bad, and that one walked 5 guys. I'm not sure if it was because of the weather, but yeah, I think the Cubs are going to go under owned in this spot, given the conditions. Right, when conditions are this good, we usually see, both sides of the game super owned, especially the road team in this spot at these prices. I'm seeing all of them under 8% owned on DK here with a team total near 5 on a 7-game slate. I think the Cubs are awesome plays here. Yeah, Green is a good arm. He's got big upside, but like you said, the home runs are going to come. I think he's been good, but not great this season. He just threw 111 pitches last outing too. I really like the Cubs here as a low-owned stack, given the game environment. I think people will flock to, and as they should, the Red Sox and the Dodgers. I think that this game is the one that I'm going to be stacking up on my main lineup here. I just really love this park. The home runs are going to fly on a small slate. Even the Reds, at least on Sabre, are all under 10% too. So yeah, sign me up here as a pivot. The team totals aren't that much different than Boston and LA. So I'm definitely going to be over the field on both sides of this game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Interesting thing with Green, his velocity has been all over the place. Did he have a mid-game delay in that last start on June 1st?
No, they just delayed it 2.5 hours, and then when they started the game, they started it in driving rain. So it was just kind of a weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like the Fox game of the night. I think they just wanted to get the game in, basically.
So probably shouldn't take too much from the 2.5 mile per hour velocity decrease that Green had there.
It was messy, rainy, shitty.
Yeah, they're probably just trouble gripping the baseball. Didn't get his normal warm up in, all that stuff. But even said that, man, Green, I just feel you stack against him and you could get absolutely owned, right? You could throw 10 strikeouts and shut you down, but just the people overweight the median outcome, and the good outcome here for the Cubs is very, very strong, right?
Hitting 4 or 5 bombs in this game.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you on the Cubs. I want to get over the field on them for sure. Again, 3 lineups. That probably means 1 lineup with the Cubs, but I do think they're a good way to go here. And then Reds too. I think pretty good spot for I think Ellie De La Cruz at 6,200. With this weather, Assad, not a big strikeout guy. Ellie showed some signs of life in Coors Field. Obviously, no surprise, but another good spot for him. And he does have still pretty crazy home road splits, including the stuff that you worry about with him, right? It's like the strikeout rate. Can he make contact? And he does a way better job with that stuff in Great American. It does seem he seems to be a little bit more comfortable there. So I do like Ellie De La Cruz. I assume you're the same way. Not really at all afraid of a matchup with Javier Assad.
No, he's been outperforming basically every time that he goes out there. Not afraid of him. On the early slate, we got Sears through 6 innings with 8 Ks. We like to see that. And Brandon Wu, 85 pitches. So that's something to monitor going forward for him. No, I'm not using either arm. I'm not scared of Assad whatsoever here.
I agree with you. I think 100 Green's more in play than Assad is, but
for sure.
Just both of those guys not on my list for a 3-entry build tonight. Colorado and St. Louis next. We do get to 2 pitchers who are on my interest list. Sonny Gray going up against the Colorado Rockies. This one, of course, in St. Louis. It does, at least for St. Louis, look like some pretty prime hitting weather. But even given that, hot, a little bit of humidity, winds blowing out, it's still a good place to pitch. And, I was willing to use Frankie Montas in Coors Field because of how strong the matchup against the Rockies is. You can be damn well sure I'm willing to use Sonny Gray here at 9,500. I do think he is the SP1 on this slate. If we remove salary and ownership and everything else out of the equation, feel very, very strongly that he will pitch well here. Whether or not he'll give you 30 instead of 22 or something, that's harder to predict. But I do like the spot for Sonny Gray. Outside of Coors, I don't really fear any of these bats. Ryan McMahon is the one who has some good numbers against righties, but everyone else, frankly, kind of a pushover. And even Ryan McMahon, I'm not really convinced he's that great of a hitter if you take him out of Coors Field. So I love Sonny Gray here. Would expect a big outing out of him. He is pretty expensive, of course, at 9,500 on DK, but I think for sure a priority if you can find cheap enough bats that you like to spend up at pitching, which I'll be doing it on at least one lineup off Sonny Gray, maybe 2. And then Cal Quantrill, who has stolen my bacon a little bit this year. I've been stacking against him quite a bit. In general, hasn't really worked out. He's seemingly getting better as the season progresses, outside of course, of his last outing against the Dodgers, where he gave up 9 hits, 4 earned runs over 4 1/3 innings, just 1 strikeout on that one, negative DK score. But the prior 5 games, he had averaged something like 24 fantasy points per game. Not really sure how he's doing it, and I'm not really sure if I expect it to continue, but he is 6K. He is the cheapest pitcher that I'm willing to use on this slate, and it is a slate where I do want to spend for bats in general. So probably Regression City and Cal Quantrill are going to bite me in the ass, but I will have Mr. Quantrill, I think, unless you can convince me otherwise, on one of my 3 teams, Sonny Gray on at least one, and probably not going to a ton of bats here, although, I don't know, full Cardinals stack against Quantrill, maybe coming back to get me once more. But where do you stand here, Steve? Rockies, Cardinals, Quantrill, and Gray.
Yeah, I don't mind Quantrill. He's been way better than expected, right? Like you said, he had that awesome run of starts. I think he's going to struggle against the top offenses, which makes sense for a guy like him, which is basically like a middle-of-the-road arm. I will say, over the last month, outside of the Dodgers and the Yankees, this St. Louis team has been been right up there with them. Second in weighted runs created plus, fifth in ISO in the split against righties. They do strike out, though, fifth highest strikeout rate over last month. So I think this is kind of a boom-bust offense, the way it's currently formed. They did get Mason Wynn back today. He's leading off. What I will say about the Cardinals, when we were talking about doing like the high-priced Dodgers or high-priced Yankees secondary stacks, I think you can do that with a five-man Cardinals. Look at how cheap this lineup is, DC. You've got the most expensive guy is Paul Goldschmidt at $4K. So you can play five of these guys in the $3K range, with one expensive pitcher or two expensive pitchers, depending on what you do with the rest of the lineup. So I really like the Cardinals here. I understand that Quantrill's been good, but I think it's a good spot to play Cardinals here. I'm probably going to have one of three Quantrill and one of three Cardinals here. I just think it's a spot where he could either survive and give us 15 or gets lit up. And what we didn't talk about yet is how bad this Rockies bullpen has been. We saw it just yesterday. They gave up, 8 or 10 runs in the last two innings of the Cincy game. Grand slam to Jonathan India in the top of the ninth. I think the Cardinals, the way they're priced, should be higher owned on this slate, given the fact that the two best arms by far are up top with Gray and Houck.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Kind of a tough spot there. I do think it's one where you could even middle it and play one Quantrill and then just a couple bats, a little mini stack perhaps from the Cardinals. And you could, with a pitcher that cheap on this slate, you could even hit both, right? You could hit Quantrill could do okay enough at that price point. And I don't know, maybe you play a Gorman and a Burles, something like that. They both do the damage and both lineups end up doing okay. I think something like that is a decent option that goes under-discussed, under-owned, whatever, on a slate like this one. That's Colorado and St. Louis, Boston, and Chicago White Sox up next. We just have these last two games to talk about. Good time to remind you guys, hit the like button. And, of course, we've got everything you need over at Run Pure Sports. Promo code DC15 for 15% off your first payment. Get to Boston and the Chicago White Sox. I think another pretty interesting game here. Another game that does have pretty extremely favorable hitting conditions. 75-ish degrees in Chicago. Some humidity, and then the biggest thing, of course, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. Looks like up to dead center field in this one. We should see the ball absolutely flying, probably home runs. Jake Woodford pitching for the White Sox is very, very bad, and it's hard not to love the White Sox here. I mean, he's just bad at everything. We talked about him last time he pitched. And he actually did better against the Blue Jays than I would have expected. Now, 3 earned runs and 5 hits and 2 walks. So 7 base runners over 4 innings with 3 earned runs. That's
still a 6 ERA.
Yeah, no, it's not great, but better than I expected. But this guy is, in my opinion, kind of a ticking time bomb. I don't love the Red Sox lineup in general, but yeah, they have to be in play here given the hitting conditions, the matchup against Woodford, and frankly, an awesome matchup against the bullpen behind Woodford. So you got to love the Red Sox here, or at least I do. And then Tanner Houck pitching for the Red Sox. He's been awesome this year. Just continues to keep crushing. He has had some pretty good matchups in general, but he has another good one here. So, they got Luis Robert back, but Zachary DeLoach leading off. I don't. I'll have to look him up because I've never heard of him until just right now. But I mean, awesome matchup for Tanner Houck. He is expensive. I think it's close between he and Sonny Gray. I think I heard you say that you prefer Houck slightly, or maybe I read that somewhere else. I don't know. But curious where you stand between Houck and Sonny Gray. actually lean the Sonny Gray side slightly, but I think it's very close between the two. Definitely not playing Woodford. And then for me, it's close between, the Red Sox and the Dodgers as to where I want to spend my salary. Of course, the Red Sox are overall quite a bit cheaper, but yeah, I assume you're going to have similar takes to me on this game. It's just a matter of what you're prioritizing, right? So talk to me, Steve. Red Sox and White Sox here.
Yeah, wind blowing out. Not at Wrigley, though. This is at a guaranteed rate. If you haven't been to those stadiums, Wrigley's like super short, and there's no tall buildings around it, which is why the wind matters a ton there. The White Sox Stadium is like the tallest one in the majors outside of San Francisco. So the wind doesn't matter as much, but wind blowing out can't be a bad thing. Like you said, it's humid here. Woodford, every time he's given a chance to start, especially last year, a ton of bombs, over 2 bombs per 9 last season in his 8 starts.
I mean, the dude is just asked at every aspect of pitching when you get to the big league level,
Yeah, for sure. Boston with a ton of pop in the lineup against right-handed pitching. They just got O'Neill back. And like you said, like this lineup is super easy to stack up. Their cheap guys have been pretty good this year. Like Wong, David Hamilton is pretty good at shortstop. He can steal bags. Rafaela had a 2-bomb game just last week. I believe it was last Friday, actually. So, yeah, Boston's in a great spot. I think they'll come
real
in.
Quick on Rafaela before I forget. He seems like he gets owned by a good right-handed pitcher, like with a good slider, where he doesn't even come within like a foot of hitting the baseball. But in these types of matchups with like real bad stuff, he has legit power, speed. So yeah, I think he's kind of interesting down there at 3.4K.
Yeah, he's gotten off to a slow start, but the talent is there, right?
A toolsy player who can be absolutely owned by good major league veterans.
Yeah, so I like Boston a ton. I think Boston, LA is the clear, like if you're trying to make the best team, I think it's a Boston, LA team. Not scared of Woodford at all. Really like Houck here. I mean, I'm trying on my 3 lineups to have all Houck and Gray. I think Gray will come in significantly higher owned than Houck because of the projections around the industry. I think he's a better raw play than Houck, but man, Houck has been so good and so consistent this year and gets this dog-ass White Sox lineup. Robert in there is scary because of the power, but he also just gets absolutely owned by right-handed slider pitchers. So, like if you watched last night, Robert, any right-hander with a good slider just throws him 5 straight until he misses 3 of them. So yeah, I'm not really concerned there outside of the one-off power. So yeah, I'm debating Boston 5-man on my main lineup. I think they're in a great spot here.
I do like lefty power against Tanner Houck, especially in hitting conditions like this. So I do actually think Gavin Sheets is one of the better one-off plays, given the leverage against a high-owned Tanner Houck as well. And probably play a share of Zachary DeLoach as well at stone minimum, leading off, swinging from the left side. He did hit 23 home runs last year at the minor league level in 138 games. So he has at least a little pop in that bat. And, 2K against a chalk pitcher leading off. I think he can probably do worse, but he'll probably go over 4 with 3K.
He has some speed too. He had 8 or 10 steals in the minors before he got called up.
He's probably a good play at 2K. But yeah, anyway, we both like Tanner Houck for sure. And then the Red Sox look really, really strong. Let's get to the last game of the night then. We'll do, of course, the stacks pitching home runs, favorite offensive plays to end the show. But first, let's talk about Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Diego Padres. 8.5 total in this one. Padres, moderate favorites. Randy Vasquez pitching for the Padres. He seems really, really bad to me. I think I was on the Royals against him in his last start. That didn't work out. Yeah, it worked out okay. 3 runs over 5 innings, but not what I was looking for exactly. Of course, trying to win a GPP, you're going to need more than that. But I'm not a believer in this guy in general, especially against left-handed bats. Unfortunately, most of the dangerous bats from the D-backs rather do swing from the right side. But I think Jock Peterson is interesting in the 3-hole. Corbin Carroll, unlike other, fallen stars, his price has actually come down to 4,400 now. He's still legit, almost never pays it off. But I do think he's interesting here against Vasquez. Of course, it's not a great place to hit in San Diego, but I couldn't get to Vasquez myself and couldn't get to Slade Ciccone as well. I've played him a few times, mostly to mediocre or poor results, frankly. Not doing it here against the Padres. No, none of these pitchers for me. No Vasquez, no Ciccone. I do think both offenses are interesting. Your thoughts here, Steve, on Padres and D-backs?
Yeah, not entirely sure. This is, I think, pretty clearly the worst spot for bats as far as hitting environment on night game.
Yeah, weather and stadium, yeah.
Yeah. The issue is I don't really want to play either of these pitchers. I don't trust Ciccone against the Padres. I've tried the pitcher against the Padres a few times since they've acquired Arise, and it is not fun, man.
I've been saying I don't want any.
I know you keep trying to talk me out of this shit, and I keep doing it, and
their K rates are combined 14%. You just can't do it.
I know. I've finally given up. I tried 2 or 3 times. I did it with Luzardo and one other guy since then. But
queue up the Slade Ciccone 7Ks and 25 DraftKings points.
Yeah, right. Yep. I think the better side here is Vasquez. If you really want a full punt here, he is, like you said, not good. But in this spot at home, in the best pitching weather on the slate, if you want to load up all of the bats like you like to do, DC, I think Vasquez is at least in play at 5,600. That is so cheap. His projection's okay. The issue is I think people are going to see that and play him. I just had it up here. Sabres got him at 20% owned. So 20% Randy Vasquez.
I'm not playing him.
I will not be doing that. But if I were playing 20, I'd probably have him in the pool just to unlock those full bat spend lineups. But yeah, I'm basically ignoring this game on all fronts.
I can't honestly remember the last time I played Corbin Carroll, but maybe tonight against Mr.
This is the night that he breaks out of it.
Probably not, but
he's got 2 bombs and 230 at bats. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's been a rough ride for Carroll. Ooh, man, I mean, this dude went 4th or 5th overall of most season-long drafts. I think he finished 5th in the MVP voting last season. Even though he didn't play the whole year, it's been a crazy fall. I know the shoulder injury that he suffered last year. Most people think that's the cause of it. I'm less convinced on that, but
shoulders are tough, man. It cost Profar 2 years when he was coming up.
Yeah, I might be joining the Corbin Carroll train tonight. Haven't made no decision, but I do think he's at least interesting. I can't do a 20% owned Vasquez. Just can't do it, even with that cheap price tag. Even on a slate where I want to play expensive hitters, even Rockies.
Yeah, that's all you need to know.
If you're a right-handed pitcher and the Rockies hit you, it's tough sledding.
Yeah.
All right, that's all 7 games. Let's do stacks, pitchers, dongs, and just best overall hitters on the slate. Start with you, Steve. Favorite stack overall and favorite contrarian stack?
I think my favorite stack is going to be Boston here because I think you're going to go Dodgers. I just like the mix of the expensive guys with the cheaper guys that actually get stuff done. Even Dom Smith has been hitting a bit lately. So I'm going to go Boston here in Chicago.
Yeah, hard to argue with that whatsoever. They would have been my favorite or second favorite overall top stack, but I will go, as you predicted, with the Dodgers against Bailey Falter. I always feel some vindication when these pitchers that I've been saying are ass all season finally meet their doom. It kind of happened to James Paxton last night, and I think Bailey Falter might be next on that list. So I do really, really like the Dodgers. They are expensive, and I like the expensive bats in the lineup, frankly, way more than I do the cheaper ones. But nevertheless, Dodger is my favorite overall stack. Contrarian stack. Give me the D-backs. I think they're going to be pretty low owned here against Randy Vasquez, who I don't have any faith in, led by the fallen hero, Corbin Carroll. Your most important pitcher on this slate, Steve, who you got?
I might only play two pitchers in all three of my lineups, so I'll go with Houck because he's the lower owned of the two. I just think he continues to dominate here. He's expensive, but I think there are ways to fit him. We talked about the Cardinals cheap bats, I think is the best way, even if it's a secondary stack, just with how cheap their entire order is.
Who's the other pitcher? You say you're going to play two guys?
Houck and Gray on all three is what I'm trying to make work. So I'm going to have to sacrifice like the 5-man Dodgers to do that. But I think I'm going to be able to do it with either 5 Boston or 5 St. Louis and play the power bats for the Dodgers.
So I will have only 3 pitchers in my 3 lineups, the combination of which I haven't decided quite yet. But yes, Tanner Houck, Sonny Gray are 2 of them. So I will go with, God, pains me to even say this, but Cal Quantrill as my, the guy.
Cy Quantrill. He's been Cy Quantrill this year. He's been so good.
He won't be tonight for me. Word to the wise, to the loyal listeners. I'm going to have some Cal Quantrill. You might do well not to play this man because there's no way he's going to do well for me after I've dogged his ass for like 2.5 years and playing him for the first time. But he will be on at least one of my 3 lineups tonight. That's Cal Quantrill pitching for the Rockies. Who's going yard tonight, Steve? Plenty of choices as always, but who's going to take us deep?
So you talked about Falter being a guy who's going to come back to earth. Javier Assad is finally going to get hit tonight. I talked about how much I liked that game at Great American. I'm going to go with Jake Fraley in the 5-hole, takes him deep tonight.
Hard to argue with that. Love that call. Jake Fraley hitting in the 5-hole there for the Cincinnati Reds. We'll stick in that same game. And Cubs hitter who's been heating up as of late has treated me pretty well. He's got, pretty good damage over the last couple of weeks or so. Ian Happ, 3,800 in the outfield against Hunter Green. We know Hunter Green obviously has strikeout upside, but he does have a tendency to give up home runs and really, really prime hitting conditions in Cincinnati. DC can't help himself playing a shitty pitcher. Guilty as charged. Take me to prison. Crew 1124. I can't even deny it. I do. It's not that I like the shitty pitchers. I just like the good hitters. It depends on how you
DC
frame.
likes the good hitters more than he likes the shitty pitchers. It's just the way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. That is home run call. All right, your just favorite overall offensive hitter on the day, Steve. Go ahead.
Mentioned him earlier. He comes back home here. Ellie De La Cruz in that Cincy lineup. I'm going to be all over this game. I think I'm going to have a full game stack of this game on at least one of my 3 lineups tonight.
Makes sense. I like what I've. You know what? No, I'm gonna make a bold call here. Don Rafaela out of the 9-hole for the Red Sox, doing some damage against Jake Woodford and that White Sox bullpen. That'll do it for this show. We do appreciate all you guys watching. Check out the NBA show with JSU and Big T. I think it was free earlier today. check that one out for any showdown or NBA betting needs. And of course, the show will be back at the normal time tomorrow for an awesome Friday night fireworks show. Steve, I know you won't be there, but Mangone and Stats will break it down for you guys. I'm interested to see the interaction between Mangone and Stats. I could see a little fire going on between those two. Should be a good show tomorrow night, but should be a fun slate tonight. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of RPS logos and you guys up at the top. And that'll do it for us. For Steve Boyden, I'm Draft Cheat. We're out of here.